cheer of your Sydney Swans.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there, you just can't get enough of the red and the white.
Fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. You're joined as always by the crew from Sydney. I'm Harps, and I have Noddy and Superfan Sam along for the ride tonight.
That's right, you lovely loyal Swans fans. Today we're going to be talking about our win over the Power and look ahead to the game this Friday night against the Dogs at home. Remember, if you enjoy what you hear, give us a like and follow. Righto, let's kick things off with a quick game recap.
Yeah, nice to get the win Saturday afternoon. 33,500 fans at Adelaide Oval. The Swans beat the Power by 19 points in the end. A little bit flattering to them. They scored the last 3 goals of the game. Really, we had the run of the whole thing for most of the game. 7-10, 52 to 9 goals, 17. Pretty wayward. We'll be talking about that. 71 for the Swans. Registering our first back-to-back win since 5th of April, nearly 3 months ago. Sammy, you were down there, as always, and the eye test is the best test. What did you think of the game, mate? Give us your 3 words.
The 3 words are we back? With a question mark.
Oh.
So, what did I think of the game? I thought it was our best performance of the year, specifically the first half, but obviously there's still a lot of work to be done. But I just thought the way we played was the closest we've come to resembling last year's first half of the year form, and even the back half before one of the days that we don't discuss, which we have too many of, unfortunately.
And what do you like, mate? The energy, the pressure, the handballs. What in particular took you back to the Bloods of old?
I think the defensive structure. I really liked how we set up. It seemed like when Port were getting the ball out of their 50, it was rushed, and they were just bombing it to our defenders. We'd sort of chip it around the back. It wouldn't be so rushed going in. There wasn't as many long kicks down the line, or if there were, they were executed in a way that was just done better than how we've been utilising that. The handball game was good. The short chip kicking was good, and I think we executed that better than we did against Richmond and turned it over a lot less. So really everything outside of the finishing was I thought really, really good.
Good. Lots to build on. And as I say, some positive performances out the back there. Mills, McCartan, Blakey, we'll be talking about all of them, but they did lay a strong foundation. Noddy, you're watching at home along with most of the Sydney faithful. What did you think, mate?
Yeah, mate, look, it was obviously awesome to get the win. We had a family birthday on, so I had the TV on in the background, and then as the game wore on, the family birthday became in the background. So I don't know. I wasn't a very good family member that afternoon, but yeah, look, it was awesome, right? And my 3 words, I'm going to flip it on the head. We all know the famous same but different. Obviously, that's 4. So I'm going to flip same different on its head, and I'm going to go with different same question mark. So obviously, we looked way better. I think everything Sam said is on point. Defensively, pressure-wise, it just looked very, very good. The effort was there. It was very pleasing. But obviously the other difference is the players in. I think that contributed to the structure. But the same thing, unfortunately, and this is probably going to be one of the key talking points today, is the behinds, right? So bad kicking, bad footy. We yet again have another score that sits firmly in this band of the 70s. If you take out, what was it, the North score and the low score against Adelaide, we averaged 66, but we've had 8 scores in the 70s. So look, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, we were extremely wayward, and it wasn't just Amadi, but obviously he stands out just for pure numbers. But the silver lining of that is that he was getting to the ball first a lot of times. Obviously, Aaliyah was out, but look, just in general, I think you mentioned before we started recording, I said last week, give me them dubs. So we got the win, and that's the most important thing as we charge on ahead towards September.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll need the kicking boots against the Bulldogs because they're just off, I think, 140 odd against the Tigers. So they'll be coming in red hot. My 3 words. I went for leaders stand up. We've talked a lot about leadership this year and an absence of leadership. And in the third quarter and through the second, I was thinking, we are absolutely all over them. But I feel like this is a game we could lose. Right, we're not far ahead. We were 14. I don't think we were ever kind of within 2 goals after the second quarter, but close enough that they were always in the game, particularly in a home fixture, right? If the crowd gets up. But I was just pleased as the fourth quarter wore on. Heaney, Grundy, Mills, Hayward, just the big experienced players stood up, got us over the line professionally, right? For what ended up to be quite a comfortable run out in the last 30 minutes. So I was thinking throughout, I can't watch us lose this from this position. I'm just delighted that they had the professionalism and the leadership to get the job done. So, as you say, Noddy, hopefully just a footnote in what is a successful remainder of the season. Sammy, so you were there, mate. So you talked about best performance of the year. So let's dig into that a bit, right? What did you like about it? What struck you this week versus last? Right, I think there's a lot of relief around the club. I'm sure Cox was relieved to see him back to their old form. Seemed to be a change in tactics, right? A lot of ball through the middle as opposed to down the lines. What did you see, mate?
I think, I think Noddy summed up some of it as well already. But in the first half, it just felt like the pressure was really good. The ball stayed inside our forward half. We couldn't finish. That was the issue. But they didn't look like scoring. They didn't really score in the first quarter. They didn't. I think they kicked 2 goals in the second, but we were really dominant. At halftime it was 6 scoring shots to 14. But in saying that, we probably missed a few out on the full as well in that time. So it was very, very dominant, and I think that came from clearance. It came from defensive structure. It came from forward half pressure. It came from unpredictability with the ball too. It didn't, as you said, sometimes we were going corridor, sometimes we were going chip, kick, mark. Sometimes we were going handball chains from D50 to forward 50. It was, there was, sometimes we were running, sometimes we were playing slow. We just didn't have we didn't have a brand, but I loved that.
And there's a lot of chats, Port Adelaide being poor. Do you think they were poor, or do you think we just outplayed them?
I think that's actually where the question mark comes from in are we back? Really, we just need to keep seeing that and see how we compare to the other teams that we play in the next 9 weeks, because until we see it consistently, it doesn't mean anything. So I do think that they were poor, but I also I do think that we were very good as well.
I feel like we were having this conversation after the Tigers game, but we didn't play as well as we did against Port. So obviously, the Tigers had a good first quarter, and then we came back, and then it was an unconvincing win, but we got the win. We didn't kick away. Whereas this one, we had all the elements of a successful looking team, but just didn't convert. If we kicked, half of those behinds, it's a convincing win, and it's more indicative of the type of game that we played. So I feel like I'm more convinced of that, of where we are now. But it's very difficult to say because it's 1 week in. 1 week in of some of our guns back and clicking and gelling to the game style a bit more. Yeah, so it is tricky to say, but you would like to think, I think, as an optimistic Swans fan, that we'll continue to gel and hopefully improve. But just ultimately, I think, even though we lost the tackle count by 3 overall, our tackle pressure was amazing for long periods of the game. We just dwarfed, they were 130 or something. We were 230 at some point. The AFL average is whatever, 180 or something. So they were well under and we were well over. Tackle completion, it looked like, and Juzzy, how good was Juzzy? He was putting the heat on, right? And just making tackles. I feel like this is the first game that I can remember where, of course there were tackles that slipped off, but I feel like it was definitely a minority. Just naked eye, right? I don't have the numbers or anything, but it just felt like we were sticking. And I don't know if that's Port being off their game. I think this is their 7th or 8th game they've kicked under 70, so they're certainly going through their troubles. But look, I'll take it, because after a 112-point loss, before the prelim win, we hadn't won at the Adelaide Oval since 2015. So, I think with all the demons on our back from the end of last year, plus the first half of this year, I think, you really have to be pleased overall with that effort.
Yeah, there were a lot of points in that game we could have lost it for the reasons you say, right? Lack of confidence, just lack of cohesion. Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, you'd have to be, I think, pleased that we won it. Let's dig into some of the ins then, right? I think I agree. It was some of the best football I've seen us play all year. Arguably, I think it's the best team we've been able to field all year. So let's take a moment to talk about Luke, Leia, and Hans, if we can. In no particular order, but I had Papley down first. What do you think of Papley? I think a big inclusion. His class came out. He wasn't his best. He was rusty. But any thoughts on Papley's game?
I love seeing Papley and Errol back specifically. Obviously, we've hardly seen them this year. But Papley was just really energetic. You could see when he hit the post, he was about to run off celebrating. He was so pumped to kick a goal and he missed it. So it was just good seeing him back and seeing his energy. Like, he leads in the forward line, and that's double entendre or whatever. Like, he's a leader, but he actually moves. He commands the ball, and a lot of our forward line can be a bit stagnant, or has been this year, quite stagnant. One thing as well that I wanted to note, I was just having a look at our stats. Ever since we lost to Freo, which was it's a year next week. So ever since we beat the Giants, which was a year ago, we've only kicked 100 points 4 times. And 2 of those have been against North Melbourne.
Right.
And one of those was a total dead rubber game against Adelaide, where I'm pretty sure we were going to finish top and they weren't going to make the 8.
Yeah.
So it is actually a big worry. Our points, as Noddy mentioned earlier, but just seeing him back in the forward line, even though he didn't kick a goal, I still loved it. I still thought he looked good. He did look like he got injured early in the second quarter, but he came back and he was fine. So I thought it was just really good to see him.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. I think that, obviously we'll see where we're at over the next month, but at the moment, I think defensively, just based on the last 2 weeks, defensively we're definitely tracking the right way, and we are stifling opposition. So we've had 2 good low scores against, but really the mark of whether or not we're going to have a crack is if we can score. And I like to think that we're headed in the right direction, because, it was all there. It was there for the taking, but it just, for whatever reason, just didn't want to go through the middle. But I think that if we can pick that part of our game up and solidify, our defensive structure and launching from our D half, then hopefully things click and, some of our rusty players get more minutes under their belt. And I really, it's a nice spot to be in, because, A, we needed the win, and B, the way we did it was mostly pleasing. Surely, it was frustrating. I was just as frustrated as the next Swans fan during the game, but, once the dust had settled, I think you look at the positives of Party's, movements around the forward 50, and he led very well, right? I don't have his stats, but I'd say it's one of his, the way in which he kicked 9 against the Crows at Adelaide Oval was very different to the way in which he was receiving the ball in this game, I think. He really led, he really created space, and he commanded the ball. And then he's just got to go back and get his rhythm down. Because look, if he'd kicked 3-3 and a couple of misses out, he'd probably be up there for points or close. But yeah, as it was, during the game when the emotions are high, it's it's hard to not lose your cool.
It was bad, and it got worse. Actually, we put him down with love, stinker of the week, Amadi. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Stinker with a caveat. Obviously, he did very well to get to be in positions to take set shots, but unfortunately, some of them were just very gettable. He hadn't played in how long's it been?
Over a month
or something. Yeah, so that's understandable to an extent. Some of those ones in front were a bit hard to swallow, but ultimately we got the win, and he was, he played well. Other than that, so you're not going to. I think his effort and endeavour around the footy, you wouldn't be dropping him after that. I don't think. No.
It was nice to see us. We've been bombing the ball forward to no one or Francis for the last few weeks. It was nice to see someone taking marks, creating opportunities on the ground from pack contests. I don't know how many marks he got, but I felt like he was pretty dominant down there. I
think it was 7 or something like that.
Yeah, look, it's a lot, right? And it was a lot, I thought it made the players around them look better as well, which was good. So yeah, with love, stinker of the week. And Marty, we know you've got it in you, mate, and I'm sure you'll be back on target. Well, look, let's get to the main event, right? The man you called Luke Skywalker, Sammy. Errol, was it everything you hoped it would be? You said the second coming of the Messiah, the dawn of man. Errol back in the team, everything right with the universe again. Was it what you hoped, or did he not quite live up to that standard?
Oh no, he lived up to it. It was really, really good seeing him back, and you could tell he wasn't, at absolute maximum capacity, but there was one moment where he kicked he swiveled. He got, I think it was like a handball at the back, and he sort of swiveled one way, turned on his left, and just put it out to the Dostrage on the wing. And it was just beautiful. Like, it wasn't actually anything that, spectacular, but it's just something that I feel like we haven't actually seen come from anyone in the team. And his ability to do that when he, in his first, quarter or couple quarters back, it was so good to see him back. And then there was one where there was a ball in defense, and again, it wasn't anything that spectacular. It probably would have gone down as an uncontested possession, but it was just beautiful seeing him pick it up and then hit a target from D50. Just the little things of his superior skill level were, it was really, really good seeing him back.
Yeah, I agree that the only person that comes close, I think, to his kicking prowess is probably Braden Campbell, but he's used differently, right? He's more half forward. So we don't often see him lace out inside 50. And then the other one is Riley Bice, has obviously got a very lovely kick as well, but he's sort of largely untested at top level. I mean, we're loving what we're seeing, but we want to see him do it a bit longer. I think in terms of just that, how did he hit that kick? For me, it's those three guys. I might be forgetting one or two, but I think they're the ones that really have it. And Errol is a class above again, I think. And we were reminded of that. He started like a house on fire, 8 touches in the first quarter. And then probably was just a bit gassed, I think, heading towards the end of the game. But you could see him post game, he was just stoked to be out there. And I'll tell you what, I don't know, every contest though he was tackled, I was a little bit like, oh shit.
His tackling was awesome too.
Yeah, definitely. He didn't look like he was carrying anything. I was just a bit nervous for the guy. That's all. Or for the Swans fan in me, which is all encompassing.
Is he right-footed, guys?
No.
He's both-footed, I reckon.
Errol Goulden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say he's 85% left.
Mate, this is my point. he's so good. I can't really tell which foot is his dominant foot. You know, I
No,
watched him.
he is a
No,
left footer.
he's dominant. He's
But
left.
he's still a great kick on the right.
He's quite
Yeah.
good on the right. Yeah.
Well, he just seems to be able to go anywhere. You know, he's not bound by his natural inhibitions. He can turn. He can turn left. He can handle both sides. He can kick both sides. As I said, I didn't think he was his best. Maybe question without notice, because we all commented on the change of tactics, right? The ball going up the middle, more speed in the game. I mean, how much of that can be? I doubt it's as simple as kind of Errol coming back and Papley and Amani around him. But I mean, I thought Blakey seemed like he had a new lease of life. All that space in the middle, the handballing, we haven't seen any of that all season. I mean, what do we put down to the inclusions?
I think it's the second week in a row where Blakey's been able to just sort of have a crack. You know, like the inclusion of Mills and Cunningham on top of Rampy just gives us so much flexibility and so much senior leadership and structure. I think it just allows Blakey to do what he did last year in his All-Australian year. Like that to me, that's what I've seen 2 weeks in a row. And what I'm hoping to see is the front half convert in the weeks ahead, right? And then once that happens, then I'll say, Sammy, yeah, I reckon we're back. But you know, it's built on that defense, that old Bloods footy, and that's what Cox's that was his biggest mandate at the beginning of the year, and then half of his team got injured. So I think that's one of the main reasons that you know we're headed in the right way, and that we're starting to see some of that footy that excited everyone last year. So yeah, I mean, fingers crossed we can roll on with it.
Yeah, lots to be positive about. And yeah, I mean, big test coming up. We'll get to the Bulldogs later in the potty, but it was definitely a step in the right direction. Boys, any final thoughts on the game? Maybe reflect on Port for a bit. You know, they look pretty average, right? Got some good players in there, missing a couple in Allaire, but I didn't think they put up much, right? There's a lot of talk about them coming to the end of an era.
One thing about I think the games we've played well in this year is every time we actually have won a game, we go, the other team didn't play well. Maybe it's our ability to make teams play poorly.
Nice, Sammy. Positive. Yeah. And you're true. It's true. We have been.
Like the Giants, we were like, yeah, they were just horrible.
Yeah, they were. And we said the same. There's another home game. We said the same after that one as well.
Carlton.
I thought
exactly we're probably okay in that one, but yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? I think the first half of the season, the losses have been, we know why, but the wins have been like a bit inconsistent in knowing the reasons we won, or like not feeling overly convinced. But the last 2 weeks, the first quarter against Tiger, and I know there's a bye round in there, but the last, after that first quarter against the Tigers, I've been largely convinced of why we've won. We've pressured the opposition, and we've played better footy for longer periods. I mean, obviously, we didn't kick on against the Tigers. That was frustrating, and we were wildly inaccurate against Port. But that's all largely within our control. So that's what I mean. Like, if we can keep that base, that defensive structure, and that confidence, and then actually click on the scoreboard, I mean, really, it's frightening. It's very close to being back to that game style that just ripped the comp open last year. So yeah, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, obviously, because it's every week basically is a final for us to even scrape into the 8. But I think that we can be, if we can play like we did against Port and convert consistently week to week, A, will be a chance, but B, I think we'll just be bloody proud, and just go, whether we make it or we don't, there's a clear difference between our best 23 and our depth 23. So first half of the season we challenge, second half we play more of the footy that we know we can play. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm sort of hopeful looking towards the rest of the season, but sort of just waiting to see whether or not we can string it together consistently.
Sammy, I think it's a really fair point. I was just looking back at the results. I think the only time we've really seen us at our best this whole season is maybe like a couple of quarters against North. And I mean, if I think back to last year, we were having kind of 1 quarter, 2 quarters game, just blowing teams away, right? Put aside the kind of end of the year and the blips and then the loss. But yeah, I think it's true. Like, I mean, I left that game on Saturday thinking, yeah, it was frustrating and we should have won by more. And you're right, there's not enough credit for what was a solid performance. So maybe we just need to all get on Team Sydney again, right? And hope we can.
I think it doesn't help that we conceded the last 3 goals
junk
in
time.
red time.
Yeah.
I think that makes it just feel like not we almost lost it, but I remember I got a bus back to the place I was staying, and there was some dirty little 15-year-old Port Adelaide fan who was like, fuck off, you Swans fan. Anyway, and he was sitting there. He was pretty delusional. And he was sitting there going, if you didn't kick all those behinds, then we would have only lost by 2. But one thing that he did say was if the game kept going for another 15 minutes, like Port could have pipped it. You know what I mean? Like they did they did kick 3 goals in 5 minutes, and it's not a good run to concede.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to know whether it's junk time or whether it's us just switching off. And really that you want to be playing the whole game, right? You need to stop any kind of momentum. Like if a team gets 2 goals in a row, you got to bust ass to stop that and snap it and get 1 back. But yeah, I mean, look, if we win by 30 points, it's a bit more indicative of the overall dominance. It's not anywhere near it should have been, like where it should have been, where it probably could have been a 50, 60 or 70 point win. The frustrating thing is that you don't want it to come down to percentage in that last week, that round 24, because there's been 2 games here. Again, all we needed is the win, but that it's that kind of nice to have. If we could kick away and get some percentage up our sleeve. But again, it's where we're at. We just can't expect too much at the moment. What we need is just wins. We need to play good, consistent defensive first footy, and then off the back of I think once our confidence comes back, we'll see more and more of that. That game style. Because first half of the season, how many times we were saying, missed the handball, sloppy handball, drop this and that, just lack of confidence, losing games, just wasn't Swans. And so if we can just start getting W's on the board and get some structure, then I think it'll all fall into place very quickly. And I think everyone will be very scared of us because, last year, it was the flip side, right? Started strong, tape it off. But as Sammy said at the beginning of this year, you kind of rather go start slow and then build up, but obviously not as bad as it's been.
I think the issue is how slow we start.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that's a lot of it is injuries upon reflection, but a lot of it was effort from the core players. So
yeah, if you rewind, I was just looking again back at the results. You rewind a month, we lost by 53 to Melbourne, then we lost 90 to Adelaide, right? So yeah, as you say,
conceded 131 points in a row. 2 weeks in a row against Melbourne and Adelaide.
Yeah.
On the dot. Like it wasn't just the fact we lost by 50. We gave up 130. Like that's... Yeah. And then the Adelaide is definitely the low point. Adelaide game's the low point of the season so far. But yeah, look, we need the wins and hopefully we can start to do it in better style.
Agreed.
Put some other teams on notice.
Well, okay. So look, let's dig into some of the players that made it happen then. The Bob medal, Bevier Bloods medal. It's our version of the Bob Skilton medal. Give out 3-2-1 points for the best Swan on the ground each game. And then at season's end, we're going to try and get the winner on the podcast. Those listening last week will know up the top we have 2 joint leaders at the moment, Grundy and Heaney, both on 14 points, and Chad on 12 points. And some of those will feature again this week. But let's start with the 1 point. A man who's played very well since he's come back in, Callum Mills.
Yeah, so I thought Millsy at halftime was actually our best. He probably dropped off a little bit as the game wore on, but not in a way that was, significant to, say had a bad second half or anything. Just I thought he was our best at halftime. So he had 27 touches, 8 marks. He had 7 and 8 marks was an equal best on ground. He had 8 score involvements equal best on ground, 5 inside 50s equal best on ground, and 565 meters gained, which was an equal best on ground. So, yeah, he was really, really good all around, and I think him playing in defense was good too.
Yeah, looking good. Nice to have him back. A leader. 2 points. The man in the middle. Another good game. I mean, he really, really crushed a ruck, to be honest. He was absolutely dominant. Grundy, Noddy, what do you think of that game?
Yeah, just another really solid game in like a 6-week period where he's really stood up for the club and been a leader. And this game was no different. He won the hitouts, I think by 5. He got another 20-plus disposal game, 6 clearances, which was equal best on ground, 8 marks, which is equal best on ground. I think he got 4 tackles, which was like second best for Swans. In a low tackle game, funnily enough. If we remember last week, Rowie got 14 tackles, and he got 5 this week, and the most the Swans got were 5. So, that was pleasing. I just think he had another brilliant game and really helped us, win the ball.
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but I think that it was mostly, look, to be honest, like stoppage was pretty even, but I just think the work he did around that, in and out, coming back, like he took a few really, really good timely intercept marks as well. I just think, he's been one of our consistent players in the recent chunk of games, but really across the season. So, it was really good to see.
Yeah, good on you, Grundy. When we needed players to stand up, he has stood up for us for several weeks in a row. Drum roll, please. There we go. The Heen Man. Another good game. Who wants to cover Heaney? A couple of nice goals as well when we needed them. Leaders' goals. All impressed with Heaney. I think best on ground is the consensus I think we came up with, boys.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think 28 touches was an equal best on... A lot of equal best on grounds in this game. 28 touches was equal best on ground. 13 of those contested. 6 score involvements. 5 clearances, and I think they were probably equal second best on grounds for both of them. Yeah, of course they were. He was just he was a machine. I think his goal kicking as well, like he stood up in crucial moments to kick goals. I think he missed one early too. So, am I right about that? Did he miss one early? He did. Yeah.
He did.
So, to come back after the whole team had the yips and convert 2 after that, both in the second half, both when we really needed them. Just a really, really good game. I'd say another thing. I've been pretty harsh on Heaney this year when he has played well and been like he hasn't been at the level he was last year. Like I feel like even he was sort of back to a level. Don't get me wrong, he had that standout game, was against Carlton where he had like 38 and so don't get me wrong, he has still had some great games, but like this was a game where, I think he just did everything right and played his role, but was still above average in every way.
Yeah. Yep. Agree. Yeah. I think that for the past, month or so, he's been good but not great, or sorry, great but not excellent. I think because we got to talk in terms of Heaney, right? And we were so spoiled last year, but and as you said, Sammy, apart from that huge game against the Blues, he's been great but not excellent. Although he's shown patches of excellence throughout games, but I think this was just a well-rounded Heaney-esque game, and it was. Yeah, it was sort of, we really needed it. Like him in these 2 goals in the second half, as you say, and Hayward as well. Those 2 goals coming at the first 10 minutes of the fourth to effectively seal it before they kick the last 3, pivotal. And it was pleasant to see. It was pleasing to see that Heaney was one of them, and obviously Wilbur.
Yeah. Look, it was. I agree. He played really well. I was just thinking maybe it was the inclusion of the old 3-sided coin back in the middle, old Heaney, Warner, and Errol. We'll move on to honourable mentions, and probably don't need to touch on Amadi again. We talked about him earlier. Errol we've mentioned 2 times. Papley we talked to as well. Let's start with a man who was also drawn a lot of criticism, but 3 goals again, still top scorer, Hayward. What do we think of that game, boys?
Sammy, you want him?
Look, I'd say he had some good moments. That's what I'll say. I'd say he still didn't consistently contribute across the game, really, but he had some good moments.
You like that 50-metre, the second goal, the little 50-metre drop punt? That was a nice goal, straight off the centre bounce.
Oh yeah, no. Even his dribble goal and the goal in the last quarter, all great moments.
Yeah. I just think at
dribble
this
goal. You wouldn't have heard it at the stadium, Sammy, but that dribble goal had Dunstall on the commentary nearly falling out of his seat. He's like, "What is he doing?"
He doesn't like the dribble kick. The Chief.
He didn't at all. He was very frustrated. But look, it went in. It looked good, I thought. Noddy, sorry, what were you going to say, mate?
No, I just think that at this point in the season, and we've obviously spoken about him since really the beginning of the season that he has sort of been very patchy, but he's still our leading goal scorer, and he still provides a bit of leadership and a bit of forward pressure up forward. But I just think that where we are in the season, especially if he's going to kick 1 or 2 or 3, even 3 goals a game, then talk of him coming in and out, I think just needs to go, and we just need to hope that he brings, he needs that confidence as well, I think, and I think he might feel a bit more comfortable with some of the more senior players around him coming back in, and I think I looked at it the other day, the 4 talls and the 4 shorts, and I was going to do this really big table and send it to you guys, but really what came out was that Hayward is just you got to have him in there because he's our best kicker this year, and it falls away quite dramatically after that. So and it's not as if our mids have been carrying the slack like we were last year. So look, I think it was pleasing. If he's in and he kicks a couple of goals a game, then so long as he's making some tackles, then that's really what I want to see from Wilbur. And I saw it against Port, and I was happy with that.
Yeah, I mean the same. You're not going to get dropped from any team scoring 3 goals, and it's not irrelevant what you do around that. But if that's your contribution, particularly in a game when you only score 71 points, right? That's a third of all of our goals, right? When you put it that way, that's a pretty shocking stat, actually. Anyone else catch anyone's eye? Anyone else want to pull out anyone?
I'll just kick off again. Sorry, I know I just spoke, but JJ had a brilliant tag on Butters in the second half. Butters was something like 21 or 22 touches in the first half, and then JJ went to him and only had another 5 or 6 or 7 for the game. So, and then he picked up 10 plus himself. So, yeah, good work, good switch there, good coaching from Coxie because he didn't start on him, but then realised that he was sort of really cutting us up through the middle. So. Put JJ on, and that was good to see. Yeah,
Sammy. Anyone else catch your eye on the day?
Look, I thought Braden, and I again haven't been his biggest fan this year. I don't think he's been in the best form. I thought he played a pretty good link-up game. And he capped it off with a goal at the end, which was good, but. It was a good outlet, to mark the footy, and I think he had quite a lot of score involvements as well. So I feel like he played that sort of link role between the mids and the forwards very well, and then not really either of them for any specific moments, but I think that Melick and McCartan and Mills just formed the wall of marking Port's rebound 50. So I thought, those two having 7 and 6 marks respectively, is worth a mention.
Yeah. Look, while we're on the M's, a player, he's not on our run sheet, but McInerney, I thought he had a good game. He was very involved early on, got the 1 goal, made some good decisions as well. High energy. I thought good tackling too. What do you think of McInerney, Noddy?
Yeah, no, he did those that good defensive efforts. I think that he's playing a role quite well. I think he's going into the centre a bit more, although he seemed to be sort of more on the outside this game. But 22 disposals from 9 contested possessions. I think he's a bit down on recent weeks in contested possessions. I think he just played a bit. I think he's sort of been. There's been times this year where he's done some silly things, and I think that he just looked composed and mature this game. And I think that he was switched on. I think the whole team was switched on. You could see that there was a clear game plan. I think they executed really, really well. And I think it was good to see, to be honest. I want to shout out Gus, though. I think he's continuing to play very consistently. Some of his link-up work through the middle as well was really exciting. 20-odd touches, and I think he's a lock, and I really, really hope we can extend him. But I think, the longer we wait, I'm fearful that he's probably heading home, but that's okay. He can still play a role with us this year.
Yeah. Probably segues nicely into
Sorry, one thing before we move on.
Yeah.
I think with Juzzy, I felt like he started so well and then probably dropped off a bit, but he was playing instinctively in the right way.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe his game.
Yeah, fair point. I agree. He did start better than he finished, but nice to see him. I thought he was still involved, and he's had a bit of a rough run this year, so good to see him approaching back to what he can do his best. Maybe talking about ins and outs then, I think you'd be a brave man to change your team after quote unquote the best game of the season. And this is always a segment which can, this can wormhole into some real head scratching. But I will start with a question, Noddy. You sent me on the VFL team before the AFL team played, and mentioned it's probably one of the strongest on paper for a long time. So what came out of the VFL, right? Anyone there who's pushing for a place to break up what was a very strong performance?
Well, it was an amazing performance, and there was even footage of the seniors watching the VFL team. We were 44 points down, and we came back to win by whatever it was, a goal or something, against a top 4 team. They might even be winning. I can't. Southport are always very, very strong, but we were blown away, and then we came back, and it was quite a phenomenal game, to be honest. And all of the senior players, they are a level above. Like Lloyd just had leather poisoning. He was everywhere, making good decisions. Florent was pretty good as well. Corey had some good moments, and I really think Buller and Detoli are not far away, or they're especially Detoli. He is really. I know he was highly touted, and I know he had a shocking injury which hampered his progress at the beginning of the year. But I can see why we looked at him and got him, because he can do some things. He can really punish teams, and we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I think that once the senior team gels and everything works, it's going to be very difficult to come in. But if you're playing good footy in the seconds, then it can only mean 2 things: that you're helping the VFL team win, and you're ready to come up and play your role. So I that said, I personally don't think any changes required. Although some of those guys I just mentioned might potentially come in.
Right, no changes. Sammy, what do you reckon?
It's not for the season, but I really don't want to see Jake Lloyd come back in yet. I think he needs to really sharpen up and get some form in the reserves and probably soak it up a bit, like they're doing with Florent. I'm glad he's not alone. But I just wouldn't want to see him come back after one good VFL game. I just think he needs some time there to really, assess, where he's at and come back in and, absolutely knock the door down for a few weeks to get back in. Look, I wouldn't mind seeing Ollie Florent come back in. He has been, out of favour for a lot of the year, and I feel like he's had a pretty tough run. And, Bice had 2 kicks, and I think he had 2 pretty nice kicks. But yeah.
As the sub, though.
yeah, like no, it's not.
Bit
It's not
tricky.
fair on Bice, but at the
Yeah.
same time, he pretty much did. He's kind of had 2 games of his last 3 where he's done not much. One he got subbed out, the other one he got subbed in. So it could also be good for him just to have a bit more of a run in the resis as well and get a bit of confidence back. Look, I think Buller as well, like, and don't get me wrong, like Francis almost took Mark of the Year and he didn't really do anything wrong without setting the world on fire. I wouldn't say Dostridge is doing that well himself either. It would be good, and again, maybe not right now, but at the same time, like every game's a final at the moment. With like there's so it could be good to see Buller come in. It could be good, even like just to see, like to keep people on their toes and just go, yeah, we had a win, but you know what, we only won by 19 points and we could have done better. So we're gonna change it up a little bit.
Yeah, Laddams wasn't bad either, to be honest. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't amazing. But he was, if we're looking, and again, it's about the tools, I think, and the combination, the right combination. Hamling played back and played forward. He took some really timely contested marks as well. We know that he can perform at AFL level. So it's what I had expected in the beginning of the year if we didn't have as many injuries, that we'd just have 2 really solid teams and that players really just trying to crack into the ones. And this is the first week where we've had, 4 or 5 really, really good AFL players go back down. And we've had a 44-point turnaround and beat one of the best teams. It's positive because, you look at the past premierships and the winning AFL team usually have, the winning VFL team or thereabouts. So you've got to have strong depth to go deep. So yeah, I think it was positive.
I think with that though, like with Buller, like as opposed to Laddams, this could be maybe the only opportunity to see Buller. Like if we don't pull a trigger on him, he could just be gone at the end of the year.
True.
So if he's had a good game, or is it just been one game?
He's probably had a good month, but he's been a bit inaccurate as well. He's bobbing up at times when maybe it does. And again, we've been pretty bad. You got to remember that. Like we've been getting pretty much smashed. But he's been kicking a couple, but he's been missing probably a little bit more. So if he'd flip that round, yeah, maybe it's that Francis McLean, Amati, one of the 3 potentially. But yeah, I don't know. I agree. If he doesn't crack in, then that probably says that we might not extend him.
Yeah. So, but I guess the thing is that I don't think Francis is setting the world on fire. I don't think McLean's in great form. Amati having 9 chances in a game is quite unbelievable.
I was surprised that sorry to cut you off, Sammy. I was surprised Francis got subbed. I thought, and I guess as a vote of confidence from your coach, like I thought that Amati probably could have come off because he clearly wasn't going to hit anything. But it is what it is. I thought, Francis didn't do too much wrong. He was leading strongly again, took a couple of good marks, but yeah, I think
I didn't put that down. I mean, for what it's worth, I didn't put that down to performance. I think that was just about getting the sub on, an injection of pace. I mean, you're right. I don't think it's a right look to take a body off at that stage. I don't think you got to see it through and hope he gets something.
And then Horse took him off when he was on 9 goals, though. Talk about a different MO.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I think, I'm just leaning towards Florent over Bice. And I'm not really even saying it on form. I'm just saying it on, I think the Bulldogs are going to be really tough. And I just think we need our best and most experienced team on the park. Probably a good time to look forward then. Who wants to talk through the Bulldogs? Odds, I'll have you know, are exactly the same as they were pre-Port game. Pre-Port game, they were paying $1.59. The Bulldogs paying $1.59 as well. So exactly the same position we were a week ago, albeit we're at home this time. Noddy, I know you've run the numbers. Talk us through the Bulldog season.
So we both coming off the exact same form lines over the past 5 weeks: win, loss, loss, win, win. So we're both going for a 3-game win streak. They're obviously better placed than us. They're eighth, 8 wins, 6 losses, 133%. So you can just see there that they're much better attacking. They've had big winning margins and respectable losing margins. So we are 3 wins from our last 5 encounters with them, but if you remember, we lost to them at the SCG before that 112-point thrashing against Port. I don't think there's been any games between that since then. But their wins have been against teams that, I don't know, other than Adelaide in round 18, they've lost to all the teams above them, excluding GWS. And the wins have come from not overly impressive teams. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know. What they're good at is attack for sure. And Sam Darcy coming back in from last week after what was thought to be an ACL, and he's kicked 5 again. So I mean, he's just probably the hardest matchup in the AFL at the moment. But Treloar going out sort of, I guess, helps a little bit, but they've got so much depth, and they're pretty unpredictable. I don't know. It's going to be a very difficult game. I feel even at home.
Sammy, thoughts, mate?
Yeah, look, I think they have been, described as the flat track bullies, pun intended. So I do think that's something that could be in our favour if they, come in underestimating us, potentially. They are a very good team, and they are very stacked. They've got a great list, so it's a hard one. I do believe though that this is a game that is must win.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we're going to be saying that a lot over if we win each week, every single week after that is going to be a must win. So it doesn't mean much to say that, but we effectively need to knock 2 teams out of the 8. I believe that Gold Coast Suns, who are sitting outside, will make finals. So I think it's going to be one of the Giants, Bulldogs, and Freo that miss in current form. If we win, I think we've got to win a minimum of 7 of our next 9. If we can do that, we need to knock one of those other teams out. And the Dogs at the moment may look possibly the most vulnerable or second most vulnerable, along with the Giants. So they are I think it's just a game where we have to win. There's no, for our season, we need to win this game.
Yep.
So how do we win it, boys?
Play like we did last week, but convert.
Simple. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think a lot of it is going to be around, stopping their inside 50 entries, because if they just go long and tall, Darcy's going to have a field day. We can't match his height. We'll probably have to be playing 2 on him. And Blakey might need to play a bit more defensively. Maybe Rampy is that sort of third tall back, just blocking the lane. But yeah, I don't know. Like he's one we really need to focus on. I know it's silly to single out players, but I mean, we haven't even spoken about Bont, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Do you just put JJ on him and hope for the best? Like, because Bont is just one of those players that'll rip a game open. And if he has an average game, then you got Libba. They've just got. I don't know. I mean, I've said one other name there, but they're deep, right? They've
Matt Kennedy's had a really good year.
Yeah, Kennedy's killing it, right? Ed Richards is potentially
there's the other one.
Australian. Yep.
Even Riley Sanders, who I think he was sick last week, so he got pulled, but he's coming good as a second year player. Sam Davidson's against Richmond, fair enough, but he had 27 touches and kicked a goal.
He did well on the halfback flank, yeah. Fraser's
Fraser, there's another one.
Come forward. Riley West. They've got a lot of role players as well, obviously, but they've got a really good balance between star players and role players, and Bevo obviously is a very good coach and can get the best out of players. So yeah, I think it's yeah, it's going to be difficult for sure. But yeah, I agree. Just solid defense and then actually taking our chances.
But I think the way that I think even less so solid defense, probably a better way to put it is, like, on the weekend, we didn't let Port go out of their D50. Like, we need to be, forward defense almost. Like, win the center clearance and lock it inside 50.
Yeah, solid defense on every line. And I think that we did see a lot of that against Port. If the ball did come out, then there was just a lot of pressure in waves. Wicks, Cunningham, all these guys just really, even Robbo coming forward. But just on every line, I agree, Sammy. It's just we just have to be very, very hungry to stop them at every contest, basically, and every launch. So if we can do that and take our chances, I think we're a decent chance. Knowing that Goulden and Papley and Amati are going to be 1 week better off, and it's another must win. Every week's a must win.
So before we go, Noddy, maybe let's just segue to a member of the Bulldogs team who was being touted as a potential future Swans player only a few weeks ago. Ugel Hagen, he's back in the list, I think, and trying to push his way back into the team. Not expecting to see him this weekend.
No, he probably won't play VFL for a while either. I mean, he's going to come back to VFL before he comes to AFL. But I mean, he had some time off, quite a long period off, and he went away to a retreat in northern New South Wales, and I think at that point in time there was talk of him wanting to. I don't know if it was him or his manager or his friends of managers saying he wanted to play for the Swans, and I think probably half of Swans fans got excited, half of them maybe didn't. But anyway, he's since gone back to Western Bulldogs, the kennel, and has addressed the playing group and said that he's there to focus and earn back their trust and respect. And although I did hear that he was late to footy training on one of those days, so look, I don't know. I hope he doesn't go too well for the Dogs, because I'm one of the Swans fans that would love to see a player like that of his caliber, if he's in the right mental space, to blossom at a club like Sydney, just out of that intense scrutiny of the Melbourne footy bubble. And I think that he would do very well. But that's just one piece. It's really sort of playing second fiddle to the main act, which is how can we stop all their guns that are playing. So I don't know. I'm nervous, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Noddy, I got one more point here. Harley's moving on as well. You've got a point that the CEO of GWS is potentially flagged as our incoming.
Oh, this was just on the AFL website as a possible candidate. GWS CEO Dave Matthews, he's obviously in the city, and he's been at the Giants for 11 years or so. So that's a pretty good stint as a CEO, and obviously they've been pretty successful. Over their first period of existence. But look, who knows, mate? I think this is anyone's. I think this is just a bit of a clickbait thing, but it might make sense. It's always nice to get external voices come in and fresh things up. Obviously, Leon Cameron came in and he's playing. He's doing his role. So maybe someone from GWS comes over and can bring some of the things that make them good, and put that through some of our football department mentality as well. So look, we'll see what happens. But I think we spoke about Harley last week. He's going to be big shoes to fill. So you hope that it's someone that can come in and play that similar role.
That's right. A lot of eyes. Well, that brings us to the end. It's going to be a tricky game. We need all the support we can get there on Friday. So get down to the SCG if you're in town. And it would have been nice to give this new look Swans team another week with maybe a slightly more straightforward opponent. But unfortunately, that's not the way life or the AFL goes. And we're straight back into the furnace up against a very good team. But we are hopeful. and fingers crossed we get the job done. And we're here next week talking about 3 wins on the bounce. How nice would that be? So, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to the end. And we must be doing something right, so give us a like and a follow.
Whether in person or on the potty, we look forward to whenever you can join us next time. But until then, up the
Up
blood.
Bloods.
Come on, Swans. And can you,
Swannies.
Swannies? Come on, Swans.
3 in
Come
a row,
on. Get it
boys.
done.
Come on.
Give me them dubs.
This podcast is an independent fan-run production and is in no way affiliated with the Sydney Swans Football Club, its players, or the AFL. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the Sydney Swans or any official organisation. All commentary is intended for entertainment and discussion purposes only.